Seattle flat outplayed him.
What do you think of the election, Mr. Citizen on Street?
This Bengals team had a successful beginning in the Kingdom 3 years ago. 13-0 win over Kirkland Steelers, and we ended our football careers, at least with Bengals, on a 14-0 win over the Hawks in Husky Stadium. So you guys have had the opportunity to play in two big stadiums in town, something that a lot of people wish they had the opportunity to do. You guys have been a successful group and a successful team because of a lot of reasons, and one of the reasons is exemplified here by this banquet and the way it was put together. We can go around the table and we can just talk about everybody. The Croises, who helped put the banquet together, Marilyn Bob Nelson, Marilyn, who had us over to her place on the one Chalk Talk night and served everybody hamburgers and cupcakes for the championship. the Perez's that have helped organize and plan the banquet, and the Viemans who have provided this place for us to have our banquet 2 years in a row now. Mr. and Mrs. Stevens, who helped with the tickets for the Husky Stadium and helped me coach when Mick wasn't able to be at one game. We could go all the way around the table. The Allers, who helped in a lot of things, unseen ways that they probably don't even want mentioned here. And all the way around, Fowzers, the McHughes, Martins, and this whole group has been like a family more than a team. And we've had, because we've been a family, and more so than just a team, we haven't strove against one another. We've gone in one direction. You guys have a lot of wins in the last 3 years to show for it. I remember early in the year when I was practicing some field goal kicking on the team that I played on, my holder and I were talking between kicks, and I mentioned that I was coaching the Bengals, and he said, "Oh, gee, that's probably a real headache, you know, coaching Little League football with all the problems." And I said, "No," I said, "this is a different group of people. It's been really a joy to be involved with this organization. I've never had one problem. Everyone has always been helpful and has stepped forward to do things without being asked. A lot of times teams get together and 2 or 3 guys that step forward to coach, they get stuck doing everything, you know, from organizing things to collecting money to you name it. And this team is, and this group of people is just so much different. Mick and I haven't had to do one thing but step on the field and coach. Everything that comes along, someone steps forward to do what is needed to be done. And so in that aspect, it's a unique group of people that I'm going to really miss. And I think these guys are gonna miss one another. And in the same sense, I think you guys are going to remember one another, even though you may go your separate ways and go to different high schools and maybe play for different teams, or maybe this may be your last year of football. You may choose to go into wrestling or just chasing girls or something. But so this has been a unique organization. I remember when I first got involved with the Bengals 3 years ago, I called all the former players from years before and talked to some of you guys. I still remember some of the conversations with some of you. And even though maybe you hadn't had as much success, you were learning in those prior years, and you guys were still all anxious to get back in and play football. And it kind of shows, two of the words that we've used this year a lot are drive and determination. And without drive and determination, a lot of you guys would have hung it up a long time ago. Because it's never fun to lose. It's always a lot more fun to win. And you guys hung in there. And one of the guys that I believe is responsible for a lot of the success of this organization, I called on the phone, and he didn't even know if his boy was going to play or not. And so I talked him into playing, you know, letting his boy play. And this guy has come forward. We have, I think, the sharpest uniforms in the whole league, bar none. It looks just like a pro team out there. And he's responsible in a great measure for those uniforms. He's been involved in every single fundraiser that we've had to put a lot of the things, the tackling dummies, the dickies, all the little things that it takes to make you guys feel like you're really a part of a winning group. And besides that, he's helped coach the team and coach the defense for 3 years. And so I just like to lead everybody in applause for Mick Repenish. But as we went through that first year, it was a learning experience for a lot of you guys. We had some new players as well as some old-time players, and we did pretty well that first year. We took third, I believe. We beat the Bears in the playoffs, And I think we had something like 8 touchdowns called back in 7 games or something like that first year. And some of it was a little bit of prejudice because we weren't supposed to be as good as we were that year, and maybe a little bit of inexperience on some of our parts. And so all told, we had a real good season that first year. And in the second year, you guys all came back, and I give credit to the players because there's certain things that you can't coach. You can't coach drive and determination. You can't coach a player wanting to do his best and putting forth every play, because in football, unlike basketball and baseball, where the individual is seen a lot, and it's easy to tell if the individual is letting down. Football is a team sport, and like when I was in high school, my mother used to come to the games, and she used to say, well, I didn't even know who you were out there. You know, everybody looked alike. And you all bunch together and fall down, and you have to have film to discriminate who made the tackle sometimes in each play, and who let down on offense as far as blocking. And you guys have wanted to give all that you've had on each and every play, and that is what has made this team go. And you guys came back the second year and really wanted to be better than you were the first year, and so we went all the way to the championship game, and you guys were co-champs in the second year. And then this year we even had a higher goal. You know, we wanted to go undefeated for the season, and you guys came out, and at the very beginning of this year, we kind of wondered if we were even going to have enough players for the team. We had a lot of the guys were out of town visiting relatives. We wondered if we were going to have enough players to even start the season. And one by one, you guys came in and checked in and got your gear, and came prepared and ready to go. And I mean this as far as the older players and as far as the younger players. I told the guys that a team is only as strong as its weakest link, and so we had to develop as a team together. And you guys had to get to know one another as friends, so you could root for one another and block for one another and tackle for one another. And they did that, and they came along, and we have evidence of what they did on film. What we saw tonight in Husky Stadium. They pretty much demolished just about everybody that they played, and we got all the way to the place that we wanted to be, and that was a championship game. And you guys played a heck of a game. And really that's what we were striving for, is to get to that game. You guys have shown throughout 3 years that you guys are winners, and I hope that you guys have developed some of the things, some of the traits that will carry on into other things in your life from just this football season. And you'll have a lot of memories from this season. But one of the things that I can say as a coach and as someone who's been, trying to lead you guys, 18 kids from different types of homes, and I've had to yell at you guys a lot, and there isn't one of you guys sitting here that I haven't yelled at that didn't deserve it also. And even when you have deserved it, it's been to get you guys to reach down and get the best out of yourselves. And right down to the last one of you guys, none of you guys has lost your temper, got angry. And it's very easy to lose your temper and get angry when somebody's yelling at you when maybe you don't feel that you deserve it, and maybe you really don't deserve it. But you guys all stuck in there, and you guys were better players for it. So I want to say to you guys, thanks a lot for allowing me to coach and lead the last 3 years. Now what I'd like to do is kind of go through some of the players and say a little bit about each one of them. Mick, you want to come up? When you guys come up, grab Mr. Vim, and to be a collector's item, as well as the Huskies are going. We have a poster of the 1984 Huskies. They may end up being #1. And then we have a KSIW sticker. First of all, I'd like to say something about Steve Davis, who didn't make it tonight. A lot of people don't realize, but Steve was a 7th grader. He was pretty big for his size, so he made the varsity by weight. And he did a real good job for being a first-year player. Never having played before. He had a real fine game during that Hawks game. I don't know, he ate raw hamburger that morning or something. And he came and he must have made about 10, 12 tackles in that game. And you saw in the Husky film here, he made several tackles and did a real fine job for us this year. So he played defensive line, Steve Davis. So if you see him at school or something, you might pat him on the back and tell him nice season. Next we have number 43, Eddie McHugh. Come up here, yeah. Eddie played defensive half, and he played a real important position in our defense. He played the back that's furthest away from the quarterback, but the one who's got to make the saving tackle of something if the runner gets by the other defensive players. We put Eddie back there, and we said, "Okay, Eddie, you're going to have a chance for some interceptions this year, because this is a spot you're going to be like the center fielder. You're going to roll back and forth and be able to pick off some passes." And Eddie played his position really well. Our defense is one of the toughest defenses in the whole league. We only gave up points to 2 different teams, and it took one of those teams 2 games to score on us. And one real good game that Eddie had was against the Colts, and he hung in there, and sure enough, he got his interception and was about 1 step away from running all the way back. The guy just barely clipped his heels. So we had a real nice season by Eddie, and this was only Eddie's 2nd year of football. And so he's come along real well, Eddie McHugh. Okay, Ruben Rivera. Ruben was number 85. He's one of the smallest members of our team. This is Ruben's 3rd year on the team, and I'll never forget that the first time Ruben showed up, we'd already kind of formed our team 3 years ago, and I kind of didn't want to get involved in handing out equipment to another new player. And so he hung out. He kept coming out to practice, and finally I said, "Hey, we got to give this guy some equipment." And he's been one of our best tacklers, our best defensive players that we've had. He was a captain on defense, played nose guard and defensive tackle, and as a credit to Ruben, we really missed Ruben in our championship game because he was playing defensive tackle right where UNIVAC ran a lot of their plays, and we really could have used him. He's really a tough kid, and he helped us stay undefeated. In the Bears game, he was the player that ran back there and swung the quarterback around, and then the quarterback ended up going to pitch the ball, and Jeff Kidd stole it and took it all the way in and helped us win the game. So Ruben had a big part in helping us be an undefeated team this year. Ruben Rivera. Derek Price. Derek was number 52, and he was our offensive center. Derek's one of the players that I remember talking to 3 years ago. And Derek told me, he says, "I want to be a center." And that impressed me right away because I hadn't really spoken to too many kids that wanted to be a center. But he told me he'd played center for many years and wanted to stay as a center. And he told me that he was a good one, and he has proved to be a good one. A lot of our plays are run right up the middle. One of the things that has helped us be the team that we are is that we've had practically no mistakes between the quarterback and the center as far as snaps and as far as ball control. We've seen even during this film of the Husky game here, the Hawks had plenty of trouble just getting the ball between the center and the quarterback. And so Derek was a very fine tackler and a mainstay on the team. He's been playing for several years, and he's a guy that wanted to play center and came out and did his utmost to be the very best center in the league. Derek Preuss.
Oh,
Pat Allen. Pat was a new player this year, hadn't played football before, and he came out and he exemplified what we had in this team, and that is a guy that came out and gave it his all right from the very beginning. He knew when he came in that he was a little bit behind the other guys, and we didn't make it easy for him to stay in the team. There were times when we went one-on-one tackler versus ball carrier, and we'd have him go 5-6 times straight. And he was going, again? And he hung in there. And he came to me one time and he says, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but my arms are getting all bruised up here. And I go, well, that's because these shoulder pads here, we issued you shoulder pads, so you use the shoulder pads to tackle. And so he gradually learned how to use those shoulder pads to bend his body over and tackle. And he was our nose guard and our PAT kicker. And we had a rough time at the beginning with getting our PATs down, and I knew that he was good enough and had the confidence that once he kicked the first one, he wouldn't miss another one. And after he did kick the first one, he didn't miss another one that he got off. We had a few that were blocked, but he had a very fine year for us, and especially as a first-year player. And getting that extra 2 points after a touchdown really counted in a lot of games. And he had a real fine all-star game too, and got an extra point in that. So we'd just like to say nice season to Pat Allen. Or Jason Martin, but in both the team picture and in the individual, he was kind of curling his lip up, like Elvis. I think he was trying to look tough, but he didn't really have to try because Jason was our offensive. He started out on defense, and we had some injuries, and Jason is a real versatile player, a very coachable player, and we went to him and said, Jason, we need you to come over to offensive guard, and he didn't put up a fight. He wanted to play defense, and that's where his love was. But he came over and he played offense, and everybody here knows how well we did on the ground this year. And one of the reasons is guys like Jason. Jason also kicks extra points, and I counted a rough count, 11 out of the players that we have sitting here have scored in one form or another this year. And in our Hawks game, Pat got hurt, and we sent Jason in there, and Jason kicked an extra point, just like that. And so Jason is one of those guys that you have to have on every team that's willing to get in there and do the dirty work, in the line of scrimmage. And I've told the guys that the game is won and lost in that little 3-foot space of the field. And Jason controlled his area of the field on every game. And he's one of the reasons why we were a successful team that we were. Jason Martin. You look at this picture and you see this pretty smile on this picture, and you think, now how could this guy be the animal that was making all those tackles out there? Once he steps across the line, he becomes a different person. But Carl is one of those guys that's a long holdover Bengal, been on the Bengals for many years, and he came out the very first year, and it was obvious that he was going to be a great tackler. And he held down one of the very important parts of our defense, and that's defensive end. And one of the things you try to do as a defense is you try not to let anybody get outside on you. You get wide on you. And Carl is one of the most devastating tacklers on our team, even though he's one of the smallest guys. And I've told Carl many times that on many teams that I've been on, usually the roughest guy in the team was the smallest. And it's probably because he had to fight to get food at dinner time or something. I don't know. But Carl's one of those guys that always has a smile on his face, but he never wants to come out of the game. If he gets hurt, he still wants to be in there. And he's got that desire and determination it takes to be a good football player. And he helped us out a great deal for 3 years. Carl Phil. I told the guys when we took our pictures, I said, try to give us a little different pose than just your normal with your helmet under your arm and stuff. And he gave a real nice pose, almost like the old football cards you used to see with Big Daddy Lipscomb, coached out there, and he looks really awesome in his picture. And Phil played defensive tackle for us, and a position that's really a cornerstone on the defense. It's a position that you have to stop the inside run and you have to stop the outside run. And Phil is one of our best defensive players. He had some great games against the Colts. It seems like on every game we had somebody rise and just have a super game. And he had a very good game against the Colts. He made a lot of super tackles against the Foxes in our Foxes game that we won 12-0. And you saw him on Husky Stadium here, drop some guys. And so Phil has been an important part of the team. He's been on the team for 2 years. He played a little football before and came in with a little knowledge that we were really able to use. And Phil anchored down an important spot on a defense that was scored on by only twice during the whole year, 2 games the whole year. And it almost looked like we weren't even going to be scored on the whole year. And it's a credit to the play and the tackling of guys like Phil Stevens. Now we have Spider Legs Perez. To get a nickname on a team, you have to be well liked. And Craig's had just about a different nickname every year, but Craig's been a long-time Bengal, and he played offensive tight end. He too would have liked to have played a lot of defense, but he did a super job. Craig is a very coachable player, a guy that you can count on, that he's going to give you his best on every single play. We scored a lot of touchdowns on our slant plays, which he was one of the key blockers on. And also he scored a touchdown against the Colts this year. And I'm not going to tell anybody, but the last 5 yards where he was airborne. He wanted to make sure that nobody caught him, and he dove. He dove in there for the touchdown. But a real fine player and a team player, and a guy that gives us all, Craig Perez. Allow me to make him smile during these pictures. So he did not smile. He looked tough in this picture. Steve played offensive split end. He played safety for us quite a bit. Steve had 2 touchdowns in the air this year. He had 1 against the Hawks, and he had 1 in the All-Star game, a real nice touchdown. And Steve has played with us the last 2 years, and he's one of those natural athletes. He came along, he played baseball for me in Redmond, and he just did a super job. Last year he played running back. This year we switched him to wide receiver, and in the Colts game, I think he had about 6 or 7 straight catches, and some of them were really nice catches. And so it really helped because we did have a good ground game. It helped to open it up, and Steve just did a real fine job catching the ball this year. Steve Wick. Lanny Nelson. Lance was one of our running backs, and Lance has played with the Bengals, I think probably the longest of any player. I think he's been 6 or 7 years with the Bengals, so he's been through the baptism of fire and all the way into the success that we've been able to have. Lance is a combination type runner. He's a hard driving type runner that picks up the extra 3 yards and carries people on his back. And he's also got the speed to get out wide on screen passes and that type of thing. And I don't know how many touchdowns Lance had or how many yards. We didn't keep stats, but he's one of the reasons why we were successful. And it helps to have running backs that can capitalize on the linemen that we had that can open holes. It really helps to have backs that can get through those holes. And Lance has been one of the leaders on the team, both offensively, and he's played defensive corner also. And so he's done a real fine job for us all the way around. Lance Nelson. Sonny Snow. Smile. Sonny, I can't say enough about Sonny. Sonny got hurt in the beginning of the year, and he did stay home. He came out to every practice. He hung right with the team even when he wasn't able to play. He came out to every game, and he's really the essence of what a team player is all about. He pulled for the team even when he really physically wasn't a part of the team and couldn't share some of the successes that we were having. But Sonny is a very important part of why we were successful. He's been with the team for 3 years, and he has come along as a football player and been one of the most improved players that we've had. He played offensive tackle, and he also played some defense, and he's also started out playing wide receiver. And so it really hurt us to lose Sonny. And Sonny got to carry the ball in Husky Stadium, which I think he really liked. And we're really proud of the accomplishments of Sonny and that he was able to come back and play the last few games with us. Sonny Snow. Ron. I don't know if I should even. We all call him Carsicle, but I know that's not how you pronounce it. Maybe you should pronounce your name just so everybody can hear it once. Carscadden. That's right. Ron played offensive left tackle for us all year. He's a player that was kind of ahead of us. He played on the varsity last year too. Ron came out, and it was obvious right away that Ron was a hitter, that he liked to hit. He wanted to learn our system. He wasn't bashful about it, although he never spoke an ill word. You never heard a word out of him practically in practice. All you heard is the crunching when he was blocking somebody. And with the success that we've had, on the ground, it's guys like Ron that have made our success what it is. And sometimes these guys don't get enough credit that they deserve. But when you have a guy like Ron in a certain spot, you can always know that you can call a play right in that spot and know it's going to go for the yardage that you need. So it was really a pleasure to coach Ron this year. I'm thankful that he was with us. Ron Carscadden. Marcus. Marcus, I probably jump on him about the most of any kid on a team sometimes it seems. And I haven't said that much about him normally, but I really believe this objectively that he was one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterbacks in the league. We went back and took down his percentages this year. There were games when he was 9 for 9 and 12 for 14. And he passed for 5 touchdowns, and he got 5 touchdowns on the ground. And he's one of the reasons, along with Derek, that we had absolutely no problems out of that particular spot. We had virtually no handoff problems. We didn't lose the ball in handoffs. We didn't lose the ball in center snap. He had 1 interception for as many times as he threw the ball. He had a real nice touchdown pass in the All-Star game. And he's one of the reasons why we've been successful, and he just did a real fine job for us. Marcus. Andre Motan. This year he came to me, he says, I'm not Moten anymore. I turned French, I'm Motan. So Andre had his nickname, we nicknamed him 3 years ago, E.T., which meant extra touchdowns. And he's kept his streak alive, and he really ran for daylight a lot this year. We used his swift legs to carry us to a lot of touchdowns. He's one of the reasons, along with Lance, that our linemen, I think, were encouraged and wanted to go out there and throw blocks because they knew that guys like Andre and guys like Lance were going to take advantage of those blocks. And Andre did a real fine job. And as well as being a good runner, he's been just a good guy to have on a team, a good leader, a silent leader. He's led with his ability, and he's also led us in that chant around the field that is kind of famous throughout the league. Everybody kind of, all the other coaches, they had their players turn their backs because they didn't want their players affected by that chant as we ran around the field. So Andre's done a real fine job for us in 3 years. Andre Moten. Well, I'll just say, I went out to one of the Telecom games and a girl came up and she says, you know, it's just not fair that Mike Fowler should have that pretty a hair. We kidded Mike a lot. I told Mike when he first came out, I remember the first day he came out to practice a couple years ago, and I knew right from the very beginning that he was going to be a leader on the team. As all new players, as Pat Allen can testify to, you know, we really get on new players hard, not because we just like them, but we want to prepare them for what they're about to enter into. And we got all over Mike Fowler, and Mike Fowler hung. And at one time it seemed like he was getting discouraged, and I pulled him aside and I told him he was going to be one of the leaders of this team. And you could tell just by that Huskies film there that you could always tell when he makes a tackle because the runner just seems to crumple. And Mike played defensive end, and he played linebacker for us. And there was a O.J. Simpson on Monday Night Football the other night said something. He said about a player. He says he hits people so hard he knocks himself out. And Mike did that during the Colts game this year. And I'm glad. A lot of times he says I'm glad I'm not the guy he hit right there. So Mike Fowler did a heck of a job for us. Alex Mendoza. His mother called him Superman. So we started calling him Superman. He was Superman. Alex is one of the hardest hitters in the whole league. I think he personally put 2 guys out of the UNIVAC game. Alex plays offensive running back flanker. He played defensive linebacker. And Alex truly is a joy to coach. He does anything you ask of him, and he actually does more. He had some real fine games. He had a touchdown catch against the Hawks, and he had an extra point catch against the Hawks. It was just like a pro catch. He went back, caught the ball back over his head, and fell back. Just an absolutely super catch. And everything that Alex does, he does with his whole heart, and he kind of exemplifies this team. And it's kind of fun to be on the sidelines and watch guys like Alex put hits on people, and be just thankful that he's on your side and not against you. So Alex Mendoza. Jeff Kidd. Oh, Jeff Kidd. We didn't have a large. That's right. We didn't have a large photo of Jeff. Almost forgot Jeffrey Kidd. 00. Probably the only guy in the league that wears 00, and it's a compliment to Jeff that I actually had coaches come up and ask me who 00 was, and I'm not kidding you. Guy came up and he says, "Who's?" And you know, for an offensive lineman to have that happen, it shows that somebody's watching. In the Colts game, we were looking back at the films, and he actually knocked 2 guys down off their feet, which is the epitome. You know, when you're coaching kids, you say, "Knock this guy down," but you know, very rarely does it happen. You actually knock somebody on his back. But one of the plays that we used was a 35 power, which we pulled Jeff around the tackle, and when we needed yards, we always went to that play because we knew that he was going to get out there and lead and get us about 5, 6, 7, 8 yards. And so it was. Jeff also played defensive end, and he played cornerback. He played linebacker, and it was a real joy to have a guy like Jeff, who again is another guy who's a silent leader. He doesn't say much, but his actions speak for him, and that's the kind of player that you want to have. Jeff Kidd. Jeff was also our punter team, and you don't really like to give another team credit. But the Colts coach came up and he said when they were about to play us, he told his players, he says, well, when we get on the field, don't be fooled by these guys' size, because they're not big. And they're not imposing. But they work like a machine, and they won't beat themselves. They look like a pro team, and they'll come at you, and they'll hammer you until they beat you. And that was, I think, a really good assessment of the way you guys played. You guys didn't make mistakes, and it's because you practiced as hard as you played on Saturdays. So I'll let Mick say a few words about the
Okay.
guys.
I've actually been with the Bengals longer than Rick has. My boy started playing at the next to the smallest level, which is the rookies. And we started in the Bear system and had another Bear system. But anyway, we had an experience that year that we weren't quite satisfied with, and we saw the Bengals and said, hey, let's go over to that team next year. So, as I guess that's rookies, Cubs, no, midgets or something like that. Midgets. Eddie was on the Bengals, and that was the year before Rick was there. And I'm not kidding you. The thing was a real shambles. I mean, I ended up having to help coach there a little bit because one day no coach showed up, right? Because he quit and didn't tell anybody. And then another coach came and he left, and you never knew what was going to happen from one practice to the next. And then the games, you knew what was going to happen. It was sweep left and sweep right, and you know, it wasn't too original. All the coaches had was a signal like this and a signal like that, and run it left and run it right. And you know, by the end of that season, which I think we had a moral victory, we tied the Colts.
No, we tied the Steelers.
Tied the Steelers? Okay, and lost by 1 point to the Colts right near the end of the game. And that was the best that the Bengals had experienced up until then. And Rick was right when he called the next year. Eddie hadn't signed up yet. It wasn't because he really wasn't going to play football, but he was spending a lot of time with golf and didn't know if he wanted to quit that right then, but he knew he wanted to play football. So I let him talk us into coming out, but we were really going to play anyway. But I could tell right away that things were different. And you know, the practices were more organized. Rick was out there and he had a couple of other kids with him helping coach. And I watched it for a while, and I could see that they needed a little help on the offensive line. So I volunteered to help coach that. And you know, as the season progressed, we kind of meshed together, and we had a pretty good year that year, a much better year than the prior year. And that's when I decided that, you know, we could make something out of not only our team but the whole system. So I kind of went overboard and, you know, had the fireworks stand and slept there at night that whole week. And but I was loving every minute of it, really. And we, you know, we progressed the system along quite a bit that year, and then came into this year, and there really wasn't much left of the system except for this team. So we kind of, you know, didn't have any fundraising this year. There was really no need for it. But that's been my history of the Bengals, but administratively. But I want to say something to these kids. I wouldn't have stuck around, you know, with you guys if it wouldn't have been for you guys. And I mean, the type of boys that you are, the ease that you take coaching, the willingness all of you have to cooperate with us, and it's just been a joy, really, over the last couple of years. Eddie wasn't with you, and I decided to stay with you last year because it was important that we had started something and I wanted to finish it. And this year really capped it off. The new kids that came out this year, Pat, like Rick said, I mean, he went to the Night Train Lane School of Tackling there before he came out here. Hit everybody with the arm around the head. And he learned in a hurry to tackle, and he did a great job. And Ron, when you came out, you did have the desire, but you were ready to go, but didn't quite know what to do. And I think by the end of the season there, you progressed to one of our best blockers, because every time we ran to the left side, we gained a lot of yards. A lot of yards. That's the type of stuff why I stuck around, is taking the kids and teaching them, and that's really the enjoyment. It's selfish on my part, but that's the enjoyment that you get from coaching, is taking kids and teaching them and having them progress. But the guy that really deserves the credit is what I was trying to say earlier. From chaos to something organized has been Rick, and you guys really, the parents and all you players, really owe him a good round of appreciation and applause, because he's really the one that on the field has brought these kids along. Rick.
I guess I can say that it was like about 7 years ago or 8 years ago, I sold candy for a living, and I took my little daughter with me when I was going around my routes, and she says, "Do they actually pay you for this?" She couldn't believe that they would actually pay somebody to go around and be around candy. And that's what it's kind of been like being around you guys. And I mean that from from the little guy right here that was yelling "Go Bengals" during the films, to the players, to the parents. It's been a unique opportunity, one that, geez, I should have almost had to pay for it. And I mean that sincerely. You guys have made, I don't even think of it as work or anything else. It's been just a joy being around you guys. Nice successes that you guys have had. And I think Mick and I would both say to you guys that we haven't made one block and one tackle during the whole time. You guys have done the playing on the field. Coach, you guys. And for taking all the guff you've had to take from us over 3 years. So you guys can give yourself a hand.
Well, I didn't know when I said I could get trophies, maybe a little better deal than someplace else, that I would get the honor of doing this tonight, but I do feel it's an honor. Having coached back probably while Rick was playing football in high school, I go back in this system to 1962 with the Bears, and we had a 1966 All-Star Championship too, Rick. So I know something about what's going on the field. We used to practice down there at the on Bellevue Road before they drained the field. There used to be about this much water that stood on it, and about halfway through the season it became a little stagnant. Mick, come on up here. We got a plaque to put on your wall, and for a little remembrance, there's a picture of the team, and put this year's record on it for you so you can remember. Great year.
Thank you very much. I want to reiterate that
About teaching the kids to hit and play a tough game. I've been to a lot of games, I've coached a lot of games, watched a lot of games on TV, and I've never been at a boys club game ever in my life where I cannons going off, like in our championship game this year. I couldn't believe that these were 13, 14-year-old boys out there hitting, because they were taking people's heads off. And I mean, it was on both sides of the field. Tremendous display of hitting right and playing the game to win. They didn't win it, but that didn't have anything to do with the way they played. Rick, we've got a plaque for you too. I'd like you to have it.
I'd just like to say one more word to the guys, and that is I hope that I know that this is the last banquet for the Bengals. And one thing, we had the All-Star game. We didn't get all of our players on the All-Star game, which was a shame, but we did get Univac back. We beat them 22-0, and so we gave them a little dose of their own medicine there. But I would like to say to you guys that I hope that in the future we'll still have contact. You guys know how to get a hold of me, and you guys can call me anytime. The relationship that we've had over the last 3 years, I'll treasure for the rest of my life. And a lot of your pictures are going to be hanging on my wall. And so we may have one more. We may have one more get together too. Bob Nelson here has gotten a good relationship going with Fran Tarkington. And he may be in town. I'm putting the pressure on him right now. But and Fran's going to be in town here, none other than Fran Tarkington, one of the best quarterbacks that ever lived. And so if we can get that together and go in the hot tub, then I'll get you guys together. Okay? And I just like to thank you guys once again for the joy of coaching